only inviting me, this is a privilege, but also for having this. I met Wolcott last year through a very good friend of mine, John Power, a great Irish-American living in Chicago and Dublin, and he kept saying, you got to go to Ireland, you got to go to Ireland. And so after a few years of that, I gave up. And I took a whole group of leaders, 35 executives, to Ireland, and we were blown away by what was going on there. And in particular at the Alltech R&D Center where I met Aidan. And I was so excited to come and be here for many reasons, but in particular because this organization, this event, this company represents one of the reasons I got into the space of innovation in the first place. In fourth grade, I read a book called American Heritage, Illustrated Book of Men and Their Inventions about the Industrial Revolution, and I was awestruck by people who could start with nothing and create something of greatness, something of legacy. Especially those people who got on a boat and came so far from home and started with nothing to create what we have around us today. So this is truly a tribute. I asked Aidan backstage how long Alltech has been doing this, and apparently it's been over 30 years. When Alltech started this conference, this confab, the company had approximately $4 million in revenue. Imagine being a $4 million a year company and starting something like this. This is why we're here today. So with this, I want to talk a little bit about where we might be in the future. Our segment for the next 23 minutes will be about foresight. Where might the future go? Not where will it go, not predicting, but envisioning plausible futures, possibilities that might occur, because we cannot predict the future in detail, but we can see the consequences. So I'd like to talk a bit about how we think about foresight, provide some foresight for where the future will be going across industries, and then bring it back to where we are here today with Alltech. Now, first of all, I like to start with success that leads to failure. You're familiar with this company, Government Motors. You've probably heard of them before. You've probably heard of all of these companies too. All of these companies are on the screen for two reasons. Number one, they've all had a near-death experience. Now, some have died, some have recovered, but nonetheless, they've all come near death. Number two, they were all the very best company on the planet in what they did for decades. For decades, they were the gold standard company worldwide. For decades, people would say, if we could just be like Pan Am. That was an airline, by the way. How can this happen? How can we go from the top of the global corporate hierarchy to near death? Now, I've spoken to executives from many of these companies during the upturn, downturn, recovery in some cases, and they all had the following dynamic. Now, there were lots of other factors. Pan Am had deregulation. Kodak, we all know that sad story. By the way, there's a Japanese doppelganger of Kodak. It was the Kodak of Japan. The global duopoly back in the 70s and 80s, it's Fujifilm. Remember the green box film? Fuji is a thriving company today. They make completely different decisions to Kodak. It is possible to navigate through fundamental disruption in your industry. And by the way, Lehman Brothers and AIG are up there for a different reason. There was probably too much innovation going on there, but that's another discussion. All of the other companies had the following dynamic going on. For 30 years, we've been making lots of money. Everything's great. And then, for the first time, around comes a memo from the chief financial officer. This quarter, we're not going to quite hit our numbers. Not a fun memo, but we all receive it at least once in our career. And what do all businesses do to solve this problem right now? You know what we do. We cut. We cut everything we can possibly cut. We cut marketing, we cut R&D, we cut out anything uncertain. We say, don't go to that Alltech conference, we got to batten down the hatches, we have a travel moratorium. And we also try and sell more stuff. Change our price a little bit, change the contract terms to pull it into the current quarter, and guess what happens the first time? It works. We marshal our forces, we rise to the occasion, we feel great, we solve the problem, we live to fight another day, and then along comes another quarter. We're not going to quite hit numbers, so what do? Cut, 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 sell, 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 and along comes another quarter, and we cut, 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 sell, 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 and it doesn't quite work as well this time. Now, what was going on? In the olden days, as my 6 and 7-year-old children say of me, picture before 8 and me before they were born, in the olden days we had something called cyclical industries. I like to think of them more as volatile industries now rather than cyclical. In those days, this strategy worked. You could cut and hold your breath and wait for the upturn and everybody made money. The problem is, when the underlying dynamic of the marketplace, when the demands of customers and customers are changing, this doesn't work anymore. It's a path to oblivion. The larger you are, the longer your runway in order to take off or fall off the edge of the cliff. Now, how do we combat this? Well, all organizations must have, of all sizes, must have ways to deal with the following two objectives. One is fortification, extending and defending the core businesses. And the other is exploration, the things we have not yet done. We must have homes for both. And here's the key point. They are two completely different worlds. They take different processes, metrics for allocating capital, for tracking success, and here's the key point. These are different people. The people who love to envision the future, figure out what customers want before they know they want it. By the way, if the customer is telling you they want something, who else are they telling? The competition. Thus, we must have ways to determine what customers want before they tell us. People who love the ship tend to hate the fortress, even if we love it because it is the font from which the resource comes. It is essential to understand the core businesses, but the problem is if you take someone who should be in the ship and you put them into the fortress for too long, it's a soul-sucking experience. And I mean this literally. Now, on the other hand, if you take someone from the fortress, great at getting the ball bearing perfect off a manufacturing line every time, driving out cost, operating to perfection, and you put them in the ship without any guidance, they say, last week you told me to do this week you told me to do something else. Do you know where this company's going? And when we're on the ship, the answer is no. We actually have no idea. That's the point. These are two completely different kinds of people. Now here's the essential insight. We must have homes for both. One is not better than the other. If we are to have sustainably successful enterprises, we must have both. We need each other. So a question for you to reflect on, which one are you more of? Are you more the fortress, seeking the future, or the ship, seeking the future, or the fortress, keeping things to excellence? What about the people who work with you? What about your colleagues and senior staff? What about the people whom you're mentoring? This matters. Now to foresight. This is a fracking well. Think what you want about fracking. That's another discussion. It's a worthy discussion, but think what you want about fracking. First of all, this is a beautiful picture. I don't know what you think, but aesthetically it's a beautiful picture. 12 years ago, my firm Clario, which is a growth strategy firm, did a future visioning program for a large global oil and gas company. 12 years ago, we were wondering where the world of oil and gas might be in 20 years. At that time, fracking was already real. It was happening down in Texas, a little bit in Oklahoma, but nobody thought it would be a big deal. In fact, 12 years ago, we tried hard to find a single expert in the global oil and gas industry that believed that fracking would amount to anything significant at all. Nobody did. In the past decade, it has changed the entire global geopolitical picture, not just the oil and gas industry. One thing we must do is engage the experts, bring them in, multiple perspectives, but if we only talk within our small space, we miss the weak signals. We miss the things that happen at the periphery that might go a different direction, that might create a competitive challenge or opportunity for our organization. If we always look in the same places, we're liable to find the same answers. It's one of the reasons I'm glad you're all here, because you can reach across the world, across the ecosystem, agriculture, and food, and find out what might be next. Now, we are all familiar with these technologies. You could probably add others to the list. We're all wound up about them, seeing the opportunity, the threat. The last few days, these have been central to conversations here at Alltech One. But few people have noticed one common underlying dynamic that each of these technologies drives in the economy in its own way. Each of these technologies allows us to distribute sensing, access to data, analytics, agency, the ability to make decisions, production, think 3D printing or rooftop solar generation, at smaller and smaller locations all around the economy in time and space, ever closer to each individual consumer, each individual business or customer. And thus, in aggregate, these technologies over the rest of our careers will drive the following dynamic across all industries, and that is we will push progressively the production and provision of products and services ever closer to the moment at which they might be demanded. Now, let me say this again. What I'm not saying is we'll have better inventory control. Certainly that would be the case, but that is a small sliver of this dynamic. We will literally, over time, and it will not be a linear process, over time, we will push the production and provision of value. Your customers don't care about your products and services. They care about the value they get. We will push the production and provision of value ever closer to the moment in which it might be demanded. Let me give you an example of how this is already happening. Amazon, that wonderful, creepy company, and it is both wonderful and creepy at the same time, does something called anticipatory shipping. With anticipatory shipping, they're watching your behavior online. On what are you clicking? What are you searching for? Where is your cursor hovering? It's called cursor hover time. We might call this digital drooling. So, they see the fishing rod that your wife told you not to buy, but you keep going back to that fishing rod, and Amazon knows that you're going to buy that fishing rod. And so they send the fishing rod to the distribution center near your home before you've ordered the product. They've been doing this for almost 3 years. Do you think they're getting better at it? This is proximity. This is not new. Just-in-time inventory management in the 60s and 70s and 80s drove down working capital costs. It was an enormous boon to manufacturing. The fact that we didn't do more wasn't because we didn't want to, it's because we couldn't. Literally, we did not have the technical capability to do this. The reason I can be so cheeky to call this a unified theory of markets and technology is one thing we know about human beings. Human beings want what they want, when they want, and where they want it. And by the way, they want it for free, but let's set that aside, that's another issue. So the companies that can give people what they want, where they want it, when they want it, will be the ones ultimately that win. By the way, we are in a moment right now similar to where personal computers were in the 70s. These two fellows, Steve and Steve, were just hobbyists. No one was paying any attention to them in the mid-70s. Until IBM in the early 80s launched the PC and it became safe for businesses to buy personal computers and the world changed. We are here today at that same moment of inflection with 3D printing. For the last 15 years, it's been a hobbyist toy. We've had maker fairs all over the world, hundreds of thousands of people coming together to show the plastic baubles, the fun things they're making. Corporations weren't paying much attention for the most part until recently. Today, Rolls-Royce and General Electric are making metal parts for aircraft engines using 3D printing. Do you think this is getting better? Now, when corporations, established enterprises see new technology, and they do, they're not stupid, they're very smart, they're paying attention. When they see new technologies, the first question they ask is, how can this technology help us do better at what we already do? This is a great question. Please keep asking it. But it's not enough. The question we have to follow with, that we usually do not, is what can this new technology allow us to do that we could never have done before? It is from this that breakthroughs occur. 2 years ago, I was at Lockheed Martin Missiles and Fire Control in Orlando, Florida, visiting with the engineer whose full-time job it is to track 3D printing. He held up a metal part that had been sliced in half. He said, this part has the strength of steel and the weight of aluminum. It was impossible to produce this part before 3D printing. This is the kind of transformation that creates breakthroughs, and this is what we must discover. Now let's think this out longer term. Today we have a global supply chain optimized for scale manufacturing at a distance. The larger your plant, the lower your costs. Not always true, but for the most part. Over the next 30 years, this model will be destroyed. Now, understand what I am not saying. What I am not saying is that all those great big plants in Southeast China or the United States, Germany, Mexico will disappear. Of course not. Some of them will remain vital, but our supply chain will become hybridized. Our supply chain will include some onshoring, some reshoring, automated robotics, AI, etc., enabling us to have smaller installations closer to the moment of demand. And by the way, over the long run, not next year, maybe not 5 years, but 10 years, 20 years, in our lifetimes, we might even perhaps have a 3D printer machine on our counter at home. Again, not next year. You could now, it's not very useful, but what about 10 years? What about 20 years? Let's think about how to buy one matching fork. It turns out it's very hard. Somebody in Western Australia mines iron ore, puts it on a ship, sends it to China, melts it down, alloys it, sends it to another plant, makes 12 forks, puts them in a box, into a pallet, slides it onto a ship across the Pacific Ocean to the port of Long Beach on a train and a truck into a store, and I buy 12 matching forks. Today, it is technologically trivial. We can't do it because the infrastructure does not exist. To download a file, push a button, and print one matching fork. Over our lifetimes, our global supply chain will be ripped apart. Again, not in the next 2 years, but in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years. This is why each of our organizations must have a foresight function in your organization. So you can turn foresight into insights for you, for your customers, or your customers' customers, and then turn those into action to build a portfolio of options in the future. Today we have over 200,000 taxi and limo drivers. 20 years from now, all of those jobs will be eliminated. Where will these people go? What will they do? This is not just a political question, it certainly is. This is an economic question. These are the people that buy everything we make, no matter where you are on the value chain. They're the consumers and taxpayers that pull everything through the economy. And we must together figure this out. 2 years ago, I was at the Frankfurt Auto Show speaking for a new program called New Mobility World, all of the non-traditional emerging automotive technologies. And for this, I had the privilege to speak with Carlos Tavares, the chairman of Peugeot Citroën. And he explained to me, one day in the future, when self-driving cars will be real, I don't know if it's 5 years or 25 years, we're not here to make date predictions, but sometime in the future, the public dialogue will transition from should we allow self-driving cars on the road to should we allow human drivers on the road, and I can guarantee you who's going to win. He said, what happens in that future world where a family that today needs 2 cars might only need 1? Why is this an issue? Because for the entire history of the global automotive industry, we have all measured our success based on one cardinal metric, unit sales. And at some point in the next 25 or 30 years, this metric will take us down a primrose path to oblivion. And I said, Carlos, what do you do about it? And he said, well, we're going to continue to follow unit sales for a long time. It is an essential question and metric, and it works. But we're also tracking some other metrics to be ready before the world changes. What Carlos is talking about is a portfolio of metrics to fight the tyranny of metrics. However you measure your success works because it works, but it won't necessarily work forever. Electric vehicles, one of my favorite topics. Back in 2010, Clario, my firm, was working on this topic for a lubricants company, an engine oil company. By the way, here's a key point. Electric vehicles take no engine oil. So you might think that a lubes company would be, I don't know, paying attention. But back in 2010, nobody was, for a good reason. 120 years of proof that electric vehicles will never work. It's hard to argue with 120 years of failure. Well, what is the main reason most people don't buy electric vehicles? You know why. It's called range anxiety. We have a medical term for it, range anxiety. People think they might be driving through the Mojave Desert and run out of charge and die a horrible death because there are no charging stations around. They say that once we have infrastructure, I'll be happy to buy an electric vehicle. This feels right, but it is completely wrong. A show of hands, how many of you have a garage? Anybody have a garage? Wow, talk to your boss about a raise, jeez. Can you plug stuff in your garage? Can you fill up your petrol-based car in a garage? Here's the punchline. By 2024 or so, a vehicle like this will be able to get 1,000 miles on one charge. Now who cares about charging stations? There are right now dozens of investors investing hundreds of millions of dollars in charging station infrastructure companies, and they will almost all lose their money, and I can guarantee it. Why do we do this? We take the new thing and we cram it into the old paradigm over and over again. The first television show was a radio show on TV. Literally people reading off scripts. There was a sound effects guy off to the side going, and you could see him. And then somebody said, wait a minute, let's do this like a stage show. And then here was the coup de grace. Let's record it and then edit it and then put it on TV. Ladies and gentlemen, that took 15 years to figure out. We do not have 15 years. So my question to you is, what is on your periphery? What are the opportunities at the edges of your market? The big threats and opportunities do not come in the core of your market. Why? Because you already know everything your competition is doing, and they already know everything you are doing. The big threats and opportunities percolate at the edges from outside. Some of them, most fail, some of them rise up and change the game. We must have better edge sensing, and we must ask better questions. What questions are you asking about your market, about your purpose, about your lives? I'll conclude with one of my favorite stories from the history of science and innovation. And that is this fellow, Dr. Fleming. Most of you are familiar with the fun story. Dr. Fleming was a bit of a messy clinician. He entered his lab one Monday morning where he was studying bacteria, and there was some stupid stuff in the petri dish that killed the bacteria. So he looked at the dish and he said, killed the bacteria, probably won't kill me. And thus was born penicillin, antibiotics, and in many ways the modern pharmaceutical industry. About a quarter of us would not exist in the room today had it not been for this insight. Now, most people look at this story and they get entirely the wrong insight. They think, aha, now I get it, innovation is about serendipity. The chance event. He could not have known this would happen, but yet one day he walked in his lab. So thus, I will skip along in life and wait for something cool to happen, and then I'll discover penicillin and win a Nobel Prize. But this is precisely not what was going on. What most people do not know is that literally dozens of researchers have seen exactly the same thing happen for decades. For decades, they walked into the lab, saw the stupid stuff in the petri dish that killed the bacteria, and said, there, and threw it out and started all over again. In the 1920s, there were two researchers who wrote an article to help their colleagues stop getting the stupid stuff in the petri dish that keeps killing the bacteria. Nobody figured it out. Why was Fleming the one who uniquely saw? Because people only see the things for which they are looking. It's an evolutionary adaptation. We cannot process all of the data hitting us at any given moment. Dr. Fleming was a creative, visionary fellow. We must give him that credit. But he also served in World War I. Through that experience, he saw thousands of people dying of infectious diseases. Therefore, he made it his life's mission not just to understand bacteria to extend the bounds of science, a noble calling, but specifically to understand bacteria in order to help protect human beings from it. Thus, at the moment when he saw what dozens had seen before, he was the one who uniquely saw. My question to you is, what questions are you asking? By the way, what questions are your loved ones asking? If you don't know, it turns out it's very hard to help them. Human beings, more than anything else, are motivated by a sense of mission and purpose. The data are quite clear about this. And I will point out that the agriculture industry has a much more intrinsic access to that activation of mission if we just use it. To feed the world, to make the world a better place, to have the experience we want as human beings. That is what motivates people more than anything else. Meanwhile, human beings grow through challenges. We grow a little bit, we learn a little bit when everything's going great, when the money's rolling, and it's certainly fun. But we truly grow when we face adversity. When things are tough, when we muster and rise to the occasion, whether we succeed or not, it is in the attempt that we grow as human beings and as organizations. As a leader, your objective is to define the challenges and pose them to your teams before the marketplace does it to you, because it will. Thank you very much.